Well, good morning. We are continuing our series on Detour Ahead, this season of Lent, as we are working through the book of Job, kind of asking how do we navigate those unexpected challenges that life throws our way. And today we're talking about union labor. What's it look like to be a friend who helps rather than a friend who, well, isn't so helpful? When I was in college, during the summers, I would go home and I would work for the county up in Pierce County up in Washington, and I would be what's called one of the summer/extra hires. And my job was to basically take big old weed whackers and go into retaining ponds and weed whack all of the grass down. That was my job. I had a crew of about 8 guys with me. We were called Crew A because being from Washington State University, we got out a little bit earlier than all the other college kids, so we got a jump start on the job, which was great. But then we got to get there, we got trained, and they gave us these awesome weed whackers that are way too powerful for what you need to do, but it's awesome because you get to just mow all the grass down. They actually would have a harness that I'd wear, and I had to hook this thing on and had these big old handlebars. So I'm literally got like the face mask and all this stuff, and I'm like, it's so much fun. So much fun. But a couple weeks pass by, and then Crew B starts to work, and they show up. And I don't know what it is about Crew B, but they are not good. I did that for like 5 years, and every year, Crew B just couldn't keep up with Crew A. I don't know what it was, but every time that we would team up on a pond, because some of these ponds are like acres big, and we had to go in and we had to weed whack them all, and I'd go down the middle, and I'd be looking and going and swooping all these things down, and I look past it, and that guy on Crew B is taking another drink of water, or his weed whacker was not working or something, and I'm like, come on, man, we got to get in the trenches. We got to do all of this work. They seemed no good. I don't know what it was about them. Every year, they couldn't keep up. They made things worse rather than things better, it seemed. Do you have any friends that are like that? You don't have to point at anybody here. Do you have a friend that maybe well-intentioned, whenever you're going through hurts and pains and struggles in life, they show up and they just don't bring much comfort? They don't actually seem to help things along. You get a little bit more work in your life, and you got to actually work a little bit harder to feel a little bit of comfort and be satisfied in what's going on. It's really hard when some of those friends show up, isn't it? Today we're talking about that. What does it look like for Job's friends to show up and be the presence of Christ for him? And 2 weeks ago, we talked about it. Job had lost his house. He lost all of his livestock, his servants. He lost his kids. And then he even gets boils. He gets these boils that are like oozing and bursting, and it's painful. He's like scraping his boils with like shards of pottery. It's not a good situation, and he's out in the ash heap, kind of the dump of the town, and he's sitting there, and his 3 friends show up, and they just sit there with him for 7 days and 7 nights, and it's awesome. And then they get uncomfortable with the silence. They feel like they need to resolve some things, and they start saying some things to Job. They actually open up their mouths, and they make everything worse. And then they start saying things like, hey, Job, like if God is just, and if a just judge will then give blessings to those who are doing good things and curse people who are doing bad things, well, if you are having bad things happen to you, then wouldn't it make sense that maybe you are a bad person or you're doing some bad things and you are deserving of these things? And this sounds like kind of good wisdom at times, right? But how much of the world works this way? We kind of have this idea, if I do A and I get B, well, if I have B happening in my life, well, then that must mean A was true. So if I have suffering and consequences and hurt, well, then it must mean I'm doing something to cause those things. And we take comfort in this kind of wisdom because it seems safe and it seems predictable, right? It's trying to get us this grid of how to understand life and see life through that lens. But this worldly wisdom, it's ultimately going to fail, right? Worldly wisdom will fail as much as we love it, as much as we want to make our home in it and sit there and find comfort in it, and ultimately it fails. And maybe you've heard these things before. Maybe you've heard Christians who are well-intentioned. Maybe you've said some of these things before. I'm not trying to get on you. I'm just saying some of us say some things that maybe aren't helpful all the time. Maybe people, you've said this, or you've heard this said to you, God's never going to give you more than you can handle. And they say it comes from the Bible, right? It's not a biblical principle, right? Because there are often times God does give you more than you can handle. Why? To break you down. Or where people will say things like, when God closes a door, he opens a window. And it sounds good, right? But you're like, but the door, I want to go through the door. We have kind of these tropes that we say. And sometimes they're true, but they're not always helpful. And so Job's friends are trying to comfort. They're trying to say these things like, hey, there must be something in your life for why you're experiencing all this heartache and this pain and this grief, and it must be you. And Job turns to his friends and goes, what are you doing? Why are you saying these things to me? You guys are miserable comforters, miserable. Basically saying, you are so bad at your job that you're trying to comfort me, but you're bringing more toil. You're bringing more pain, more hurt. It's like a full-time job trying to even just endure the onslaught of comfort, quote unquote, that you're trying to bring to me. He is in this place where he's like, I wouldn't do this to you. It's like, if I were in your shoes, I would encourage you. I would try and bind up your grief and help you. But you guys are not doing that. Have you had that friend before? Have you been that friend? Where you're kind of picking a little bit at the things. Hey, you know why you're having these struggles, right? It's because you did this, and this. Maybe it's true. It's not always helpful. And Job kind of gets after his friends. You guys are miserable comforters. And then the conversation switches. He's not talking to his friends anymore. He switches and he talks to God directly. And he says, God, you're grinding me down. My body is shriveled and gaunt. You are gnashing me with your teeth, tearing me apart with your teeth. Your eyes are piercing me. You know what it sounds like? It doesn't sound like God is being the shepherd who is like providing and taking care of. It looks like God is being the predator, right? Job is using this language saying like God is like this hunter coming after me. His eyes are locked in on me. He is my enemy. He's coming after and tearing my flesh apart. I am shriveling and I am wasting away. And he is grinding me down. I don't know how much more longer I can take this. It gets me thinking, can we talk that way to God? Can we say, God, you're like this animal who's like hunting me down with your eyes are piercing and your teeth are in my flesh and you're tearing me apart and I'm shriveled and withering away and I just can't do this. You're grinding me down. Can we talk that way? Is that okay for us to do that? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. Because here's why. If you're talking to God about how much he feels like your enemy, you are still in relationship with him. That's the comfort we see in this. This is why I think that marriages tend to struggle, why friendships tend to break down. It's when conversations stop. Even if you're having the worst fights of your life at 2 a.m, you're still talking, still trying to figure things out, still trying to work things out. That's when silence comes, right? When we stop communicating, when we stop saying our frustrations, when we stop speaking about how we feel to things, that's when things begin to degrade and fall apart. And I think a lot of us are in that place when it comes to God. We're broken down, we're ground down. We feel like he's gnashing his teeth at us. We're shriveling and washing away, and so we just don't talk to God anymore. We don't pray, we don't spend time in his word. We find no use for gathering in worship, and we just be silent, and eventually we look back and go, God, you just abandoned me. How many of us find ourselves in that place that we are just not talking, not communicating, not saying anything? For fear that God would burn against us, that God would wag his finger at us, that God would hurt us? I don't know. But if we're at least talking to him and sharing how we're feeling, even if he feels like our enemy at that time, we're still in relationship. And Job kind of continues saying, God, you feel like you're attacking me, and like you're this warrior and you're coming after me, all of these things. But then there's a shift. In verse 19, he shifts and he says that I'm going to put my eyes are going to be focused on heavens and the heavenly witness that you give. It reminds me of Psalm 121 when he says, my eyes look to the hills, and where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. I feel like Job is like, he's seeing this whole thing, all the pain and the hurt and the toil, and his body is wasting away, and he still looks up to heaven and says, I need him. I need someone who is my advocate. That's who I need. I need someone who can be a friend and help put one hand on me and one hand on God and bridge the gap. That's who I need. He's seeing that he has a need for a redeemer. Now, we're going to see this redeemer in Job chapter 19 on Easter, all right? So we're not going to get there quite yet. But even he realizes that he needs a savior. He needs somebody to mediate on his behalf. He needs somebody to rescue him and restore him and to be his advocate and his helper. He sees that he needs help, even when he's feeling crushed and hurt and abandoned. Job is clinging to the God of the promise, even when he's being crushed by the God of the law. This is a really hard thing for us, isn't it? Because what we're saying is that Job needs to realize that he cannot be reliant on himself. He can't even be reliant on some of his friends who are trying to be helpful. He has to be reliant solely on God. And sometimes God will break us. Sometimes God will give us too much. Sometimes God will take the hammer and smack us down. And you think, why would God do that? Because he needs to break our self-reliance. I look at times in my life, because I am awfully self-reliant. And I look at times in my life when I see God working me and breaking me down. And it's painful, it's hard work, because I don't want to do it. I don't want to change and be transformed. I don't want God to humble me. I want to be proud at times. But God will break me down so that I don't rely on myself. I rely on him. So that he can be my advocate. He can be my helper. He can be the one who mediates. Job is clinging to this promise. He knows there is one that I set my eyes on, one in heaven, and that my body will be a witness to him. So what does this mean for us? This week, as we take Job 16 into our hearts and go out, what does that really look like for us? And I got a couple things, 3 things for you. And the first is this. Number 1, audit your circle. What I mean by that is, who is in your group of friends? Who are the people that you go to when pain happens, when suffering happens, when hardship happens? Who are those people? And are they friends? Maybe there's a season in your life when those friends show up like his friends did. His friends showed up in the ash heap and they sat with him for 7 days and 7 nights, and it was good. But maybe there's some times when your friends start to open up their mouths and they say not so helpful things. Or maybe you have a friend that every time, even when you're like, man, I'm struggling, for some reason they always got to bring their struggles more in. Well, you know what, I did this and this happened to me. And you're like, this is just exhausting, I'm hurting. Can't you be with me? Audit your circle. When you ask somebody to lift a really heavy couch, are they going to come over and just say, yeah, I'm here to lift it with you? Or are they going to set the couch down halfway through and go, you know what, you should be lifting better than that. That's why your back hurts. Audit your circle. Are your friends the ones who are going to point you to Jesus and say, that's where your help comes from? He's the one who is working good even in the midst of suffering, that he has suffered for you, that he gives new life to you each and every day. Are they doing that to you? Pointing you always to the heavenly witness, or are they always saying, well, you know what? It's because you did this when you were a kid. Because you have this personality, this is why all these bad things are happening. Audit your circle. And in the same way, also, number 2, be the friend that Job was looking for. You need to be the friend that encourages and binds up people's grief and walks with them and holds it with them. And at times you're going to be silent and you're just going to sit there with them. We need that. We need people who will just be with us and bear the load with us. And we can share our burdens with them. They don't judge. They don't turn away. They don't critique. They just say, hey, I'm here. It's like inviting the friend over, or the mother-in-law over. And the mother-in-law shows up and she's just like, hey, you need to be doing this, or this, and cleaning all these things. It's just exhausting, right? But when you bring the friend over who just shows up and says, hey, I'm just here to help. I got a broom and I got a bag. Let's clean. That's the difference we're looking at. Be the friend that just says, I'm here. Whatever's going to be helpful, whatever's going to be good, whatever's going to help me point you to Christ, that's what I'm going to do. Be the friend that Job was looking for. And the third thing is this: you do not need to justify yourself. The last verse in verse 22. Job says, I am about to go to the road of no return. He is sensing this is probably going to be the end for me. He's endured incredible hardship, lost everything. His body is wasting and shriveling away, and he goes, I'm at the end. I'm going to die soon. And he says, I'm not going to depend on friends. I'm not going to depend on me. I'm going to depend on the one who truly can mediate between God and me. And we know who that is. We know that that is Jesus Christ. We know that Jesus has took a hand and he's put his hand on the Father and he's put his hand on Job and he says, I got this. He does the same for you. I got this. The sin that you have in your life, the thing that's bringing consequences and hurts and pains, the suffering that's happened in your life, I took it all. I took it all on the cross. I died the death that you deserve. I paid the price with my own precious blood. I was laid in a tomb and I rose victorious for you. I did this work. We do not need to justify ourselves. We are not going to get into the heavenly realms and go, you know what, God, I tried really, really hard. I did this, and this. And I'm hoping for a B+, and that's good enough. It's not. Nothing's good enough. But Christ is. We don't need to justify ourselves. Christ has done it for us, and he truly comforts us. And he has put people in your life to be his hands and feet, to be the ones that sit with you and suffer with you and grieve with you. And so my friends, lean into that this week. Audit your circle. Be the friend that Job was looking for. And don't feel like you have to exhaust yourself trying over and over and over again to justify yourself. It has been done and finished in Christ. Amen. Amen.